Hey, Andy, I'm so excited that you are here on the Sarah Hall Show. And I want to get straight into you introducing yourself and letting all the viewers and listeners know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I'm Andie Grange. I'm a registered dietitian and an intuitive eating counselor. And I work with women to help them heal their relationship with food and overcome years of dieting. I personally went through quite a few years of disordered eating myself. So I have very personal experience with it. And so I absolutely love being able to share my experience and what I've learned to help other people then overcome their struggles and get to just a really good, healthy place with food.
So, can we talk a little bit about becoming? I mean, obviously, I have a large following of dietitians, but
Mhm.
also becoming an intuitive eating counselor because I feel like, back when I went to college and graduated in '06, that sounds so old. Intuitive eating really, I don't even remember hearing that word until,
Mhm.
a few years back. And so, can you explain a little bit? Because a lot of girls, I think, are really interested in becoming, a coach in intuitive eating, but they don't know how. Or on the contrary, too, there's a lot of women out there that may not have a nutrition background that are really interested in learning from someone like you. So, how did you become an intuitive eating counselor?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because it's true. I don't know how things have changed. I've been out of school, out of college for a little over 10 years now, and we didn't learn anything about intuitive
Yeah.
eating. I don't even think I ever heard that word or that concept throughout my schooling. And so for me, it was really obviously first through personal experience. I worked with a dietitian and a therapist when I was struggling with my disordered eating. And that's kind of where I was introduced to the concept and was like, why did I not learn about this in school? And doing a lot of research on my own. There's so many good books and podcasts and information about it. You can also take a course to actually become an intuitive eating counselor. Not everybody does that, and you definitely don't have to do that. But it's another avenue to take. But I think a lot of it is just, learning about it, reading about it, doing the research on your own. And hopefully schools will get better about introducing that into the dietetics curriculum. But for me, I had the same experience, and it was just a lot of self study.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, that goes with business too. I mean, we're not taught business as dietitians, and obviously I have therapists that I work with and mindset coaches and things like that, but a lot of us do not go to college for what we end up doing as an entrepreneur. And like
Mhm.
I made a joke the other day, yeah, I spent 6 years in college, me and my husband both, and neither one of us really use our degrees anymore. It's like
Yeah.
because I always get asked, well, is your son going to go to college? And sure, he has a college fund if he wants to go to college, but I just don't align with that school of thought anymore that we have to go to college to do certain things because, like, I don't even use my degrees anymore. I know you still do,
Mhm.
obviously, and I could if I wanted to, but it's like there's so many other opportunities. And I don't know, I wouldn't wait on our dietetics program to start in, teaching intuitive eating. I would go learn it like you have and learn from
Mhm.
others. And like and what about like someone that's like not a professional but like they want to start intuitive eating? What would you say their first step would be?
Yeah, so I always encourage people to just start. Like I said, there's a really good book called Intuitive Eating that just kind of introduces people to the concept. And I do work with a lot of women who have read that book, but are like, this is such a great concept, but how do I actually do it? And so obviously, that's where getting a coach and working with a dietitian comes in to really have that hand holding, that accountability, that support. But if you're just kind of interested in learning about it, there's so many great accounts on Instagram and Facebook to really start learning about the concept. Like I said, there's a lot of good podcasts, and then also, just kind of looking into books. There's actually a ton of really good books about intuitive eating out there. So just kind of first steps, I think, just start doing the research and ask questions. I always have people asking me questions on my Instagram, like, what is intuitive eating? And so I'm happy to talk to people and tell them a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so step one is like creating the self-awareness. Like you can do some baby steps to learning, but really if someone wants to implement it, it's like they're going to need that troubleshooting, accountability, and support. And I know for me, even personally, like it's easier if you tell me how to apply something. Like I can read a book and I can learn it, but I feel like a lot of people are the same way. Like we can all read, we can all learn, we can all absorb, but the application step is really hard because we all have these different lives. And some people you work with are moms, and some people you work with are fresh out of college,
Mhm.
dating, doing all these things. And like, social life. And intuitive eating looks different for a mom versus someone that's like got a more social lifestyle, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like it's the application. Like these women can learn all these things from books, but they need to come to you to get the application.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I work with so many women, and I've had women even tell me, like, oh, intuitive eating won't work for me. I read the book and I tried it and I went back to calorie counting. And I'm like, okay, but did you have a coach to really help walk you through the steps? And that's what changes everything. And like you said, it's going to be different for everybody. So if you have a random question one day about, like, well, how do I handle this, or this, happened at an event, what should I have done? To have somebody to just turn to that's an expert, that's gone through it, that's helped so many other women through it, to be able to just, right away give you an answer is so much easier than, well, that wasn't covered in my book, or trying to Google it and getting 1,000 different answers. So having that person that is an expert to go to is just so game changing.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the steps. So my next question was going to be like, if you took me as a client and I said, "Man, I've been dieting since I was 12, girl," like what would the steps be? So what do you do when you get a client and you have these steps that you have to go through? I'm sure part of it is assessing where each person is starting and then going from there.
For sure. Yeah. So obviously, kind of figuring out where you're starting at, what your history has been. I have like an intro sheet that people fill out to kind of give me an idea of their background. And it's funny that you mentioned earlier, feeling like you don't use your degree. I joke all the time that I feel like I'm more of a therapist than a
Yeah.
dietitian. And people
Yeah.
always tell me, like, well, maybe I need a therapist. And I'm like, I'm basically both. I mean, I'm not a qualified therapist,
Yeah.
but we do dig into a lot of, what people don't realize is sometimes is that food is so mental and emotional, and so much more than just food. And so really digging into the why behind, well, why are you binging, why are you restricting, why do you have these food rules? And one of the first things I work with people on is breaking all these food rules that we have. People come to me and they're like, after 7 and I don't eat more than 2 carbs a day and I have to have vegetables at every meal. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start breaking that down and just learning how to actually listen to your body, because that's kind of the first step, is getting back in tune with our body, because all of the diets, all the rules, all the restrictions just make us so out of tune with our body.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit too about, because I get these questions a lot from, business owners about like working one to one, especially in the intuitive eating space and the body image space, like
Mhm.
working one to one with clients versus like having some group components. And like you've been able to master and mesh all this together too. And I think it's like, I don't think some intuitive eating counselors and even intuitive eating RDs and even some intuitive eating clients have this thought that like, I can't make progress if I'm not doing just one to one, or on the
Mhm.
contrary, they don't see the positive side of being in a community of other people struggling with the same thing. Like they're on this intuitive eating journey with 12 other women, like it's powerful, you know what I mean? And so what kind of breakthroughs have you had as we've kind of evolved your offer, seeing like how your clients engage in the community aspects, and like just give a little bit of your experience there with doing some group, some one-on-one, and kind of marrying these things together?
Yeah, it's been so awesome to see that, because I did start out doing one to one. And obviously, for some people, that is beneficial. But I would say for the majority of people, having a group of people that you can go to, that you're like, hey, I'm struggling with that too. Or what do you think about this? And it's funny because one of my past clients was talking to a girl that just joined my program. And she was saying, she's like, you don't know how powerful it is until, I think her quote was like, you're driving home listening to a Zoom call and you're banging on your steering wheel saying, like, I feel the exact same way. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so cool to have that community of people where you finally don't feel alone, because I think so many times it can feel really isolating, or you can just be like, am I the only one that does this, or you think you're weird or there's something wrong with you. And so then to be in this group of women that you're just talking to every day, we have a private Facebook group, and you also get the one-on-one experience as well. Obviously, I have that included in the program, but I think the group aspect is so powerful, to just not feel alone and just finally feel like, hey, other people are on this journey with me as well. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and if the coaching is set up right and you have the different features, like I always say, it's like a buffet of options. People can
Mhm.
use the one on one component, or they can use the community component. They can participate in the curriculum. They can be live. They can watch replays. Like they have options, just like when they walk into a restaurant and they have options on a menu. And like that's the awesome part of building your business in this way with more of a hybrid tiered system. But I just feel like it's so impactful for these women wanting to learn intuitive eating. And I feel like it's a big misconception from intuitive eating clients as well as other intuitive eating dietitians and coaches that, like, if it's not all one to one, I'm not going to get the progress. And that's just not true because you're an example of that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like I mentioned, I do have a lot of people that utilize the one-on-one. I have options to private voice message with me, and, I do weekly one-on-one check-in forums. So you definitely get that one-on-one aspect. But I do think the group aspect, like I said, is so, so powerful. So having the combination of the two has been really cool because one-on-one, as awesome as it is and as beneficial as it is for some people, you don't have that group component. You don't have those other people that you're working with, or, that you can kind of collaborate with. And so it is really powerful to have that group aspect.
Yeah, and it's like the cherry on top, you know? Like you get
Hmm.
all the private time with you and you get to make the progress and go through the steps to learn intuitive eating for you as an individual. But then cherry on top is, oh, by the way, you can also make friends and participate with other people that are struggling and like get that reinforcement like when someone hears on a Zoom, oh my god, it's not just me. Like they
Uh,
feel they feel like, okay, I'm not the weird one, you know? Like other people are doing this too, and I think it's just it makes your coaching even more impactful because like it's just like third party credibility, you know, that the work you're doing is paying off for more people than just one too. So I really appreciate you opening up and talking about that. And as far as like struggles for you, Andy, I mean, it's difficult enough to work with clients, right? Because you've got your own history with disordered eating and it can be very triggering working in that space. And so, are there any struggles that you've overcome either with something like that or just with your business model or social media? I mean, I have so many girls that really struggle putting themselves out there as an entrepreneur. So I thought we might break down one thing that you feel like you've had to overcome.
Yeah, I think, we always talk about in your program that I'm in about mindset. And I think that's been one of the biggest ones. I know for me, I've always been somebody who is a little bit more introverted, a little bit more shy. I'm not one to put myself out there. And so that's been a big struggle for me to just learn that, like, I really can be a leader, because to me, I've always been, I'm a follower, like I just do what I'm asked and I'm fine with that. And so to actually lead a Zoom call and lead these women and, put myself out there and be like, I can help you, has been really intimidating for me. And so, to work, and you always talk about, if you're not working on your mindset, you're not going to be able to be as successful. And I found that to be really true. I know when I'm in a better mindset and I'm, doing things to really help myself, like self-care and morning routines and those things that don't seem business related, are actually so key to having a successful business, because you really have to take care of yourself in order to be able to be in a good place to be a leader and help other people.
Yeah, I think we all go through that journey because I had the same like confidence struggles and like you guys see the Sarah that's very developed after 8+ years, right? Like,
Mhm.
but you didn't see me as the baby entrepreneur Sarah back in 2014, 2015. So it's hard because like I even was sitting here thinking as you were talking, like a lot of the girls that probably know you or even people that's in my program or followed me and seen me talk about you, the immediate reaction about you is, wow, she's so outgoing. She's so
No.
bold. I even feel that way about you, you
Uh-huh.
know? And so to hear you say, hey, I wasn't always like this, I had to progress into this, and to hear me say that too, I think it's very inspiring because I think women just think you and I are the type of woman that's born with confidence.
Mhm.
I still struggle with it every day. And we just have to
Oh, yeah.
push ourselves out of that zone, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have always struggled with confidence. Honestly, it's been, and I think that was part of my disordered eating and all of that journey, was I kind of used that as like
Yeah.
my thing to cling to have some sort of confidence. And so, yeah, I think, overcoming that. And I think too, that's where, being in a group aspect, like your group coaching program that I'm in, is so cool, because I can relate to all these other women and meet all these other women who are like, hey, I struggle with that too. And so it's really cool to know you're not going through it alone. But overcoming the mindset and becoming confident definitely takes time, and it takes daily work.
Daily work. Can you give an example of something you do every day to I call it preparing yourself for war almost. It's not
Mhm.
that drastic, but it is in
Yeah.
the world of social media because you have internet trolls, you have
Mhm.
bullies, you have people saying no, you have people saying, I don't like your opinion about X. You know what I mean? Like it's literally the war of social media every day. So What is one thing that you do to prepare yourself to say, like, I'm doing this dang thing?
Yeah, the two things that come to mind just right off the bat are one, just I've learned to laugh at it. Like I take, those negative comments and sometimes I'll highlight them and just like joke about it and just I
Yeah.
just have to laugh about it, instead of crying because it is hard with all the internet trolls. And sometimes you just have to like make light of it. And then the other thing, and I know you're very faith based as well, and so am I, is just really my faith. I've started every morning with like studying my scriptures and praying and doing all of that, and that's helped me really just be in a good mindset, like spiritually, which then helps everything else.
Yeah, I really feel like because I grew up in church. My grandfather was a pastor, and then over the years, after he passed away, like I didn't fall away from my walk with God, but like I didn't study the Bible as much, and I didn't start
Mhm.
my day with it. And then, like 3 years ago, that's why I said, you know what, I'm not gonna do hit or miss like with my walk with God. I'm going to really hone in on my Bible, my journal, my studying, my gratitude every day, and I feel like that it was a turning point honestly in the last just few years of like being able to have so much more grit and resilience of like no matter what someone does to me, I'm just going to let it bounce off. It may sting
Mhm.
for a second, but I'm just going to let it bounce off because if you don't, it literally hinders the impact that you're making on your own life as well as what God laid out in front of us to be doing anyway. We're all just walking his plan.
Mhm.
And so it's like you have to get to that point where you do something that prepares you for the day. And it doesn't have to be obviously the Bible, but that is what it is for me and you, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But for other people, maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's writing
Mhm.
down 3 goals for the day, maybe it's starting the day with like positive affirmations, like
Mhm.
using words like I am going to, or today I will do, or I am successful versus like I hope I do this today, or
Yes.
maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you've come a long way with the word choices too. Cause I remember in the first week, I'd have to be like, Andie, look at you. Look what you're doing. Like you are doing so amazing. And like look at this sale you just
Mhm.
made. And like we'd have to work together to change your thoughts and words. I remember that. And then going to this blossomed rose that you are now, it's like it's been a huge change in you.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the word choice and just really like coming from a place, you always talk about coming from a place of abundance. And that's been really powerful for me to not always be comparing myself or, when other people are succeeding, feeling like, okay, well, I can't succeed if they're succeeding, but to come from a place of there's enough to go around, like we can all win has been so helpful because then when I see other people winning, instead of feeling bad, I'm like, that's awesome that she's doing that. I can do that too. And
Yeah.
so coming from that place of abundance has been so, so helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge transition just in itself of when you have a negative scarce thought, immediately training yourself to change it to an abundant thought. Like, oh my gosh, her reel went viral. Like that would never happen for me is a scarce thought versus saying like, you know what, her reel went viral. I can do my own and my reel could go viral too.
Mhm.
Or even the thought of like, I don't need a viral reel to be successful. That's an abundant
Yes.
thought too, because I've never had a
Mhm.
viral reel, even at my
Yes.
level of business and starting to think it's never going to happen.
I know. It's so funny because I was getting so caught up in that, but then I realized like, and we've talked about this before, but there are people with hundreds of thousands of followers that aren't making any money. And like,
Yeah.
I know you hit 10K not too long ago. I'm not even at 10K yet. And I'm like, I'm making over 6 figures with less than 10K. Like it helped me realize like followers don't mean everything. Yeah, it gets more eyes on you, which is great, but it's more about the connections, the community, and like really being able to help people. You don't need a ton of followers to do well in business.
Yeah, it's just the right people. Like you literally
Mhm.
are attracting the right people. It took me over, I believe it was a little over 4 years, probably borderline 5 years to get over 10K followers.
Mhm.
But we did so much cleanup within those years too. Like if they weren't my right type of person or my ideal client or somebody that I truly wanted to engage and partner with on social media, we deleted them. So
Mhm.
for years we would go up and then down and then up and then down because we wanted to make sure that when we did hit this level of followers that it was truly the right people. And not going to say there's probably still some that have slipped through the cracks, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
you're so right when you say like as the bottom line, as long as your bank account is growing and you are
Mhm.
feeling successful and meeting your goals, like the follower count doesn't mean anything because people can grow followers, people can pay for followers, for God's
Yes.
sake.
Yeah.
But those paid followers are never going to buy from them. And
Mhm.
just the fact that so many people are out here on the internet comparing themselves to someone that bought followers because
Yeah.
they don't know, like, wake up call. People buy
Mhm.
followers, people buy likes. Just because you go to an
Mhm.
influencer's page that's selling some sort of random nutrition product and they have 2,500 likes doesn't mean that that product is for you, because likely they bought the freaking likes on the post.
Mhm. Exactly.
I'm sure that's what people come to you too. Oh, I saw so and so post about this weight loss product. Like,
Mhm.
should I do that? Like, I'm sure you hear that all the time, and you go to their page and it's like some random influencer with no education and
Yes.
they've bought their likes.
Yes, it's so frustrating because I mean, there's a lot of awesome credentialed people out there, but there's also a lot of people that
Yeah.
have no idea what they're talking about and they just have a lot of followers for whatever reason, whether they're legitimate or they bought them or whatever. And so they do have this like kind of pseudo credibility, and it can be hard to fight through that sometimes. Like just because somebody has 100,000 followers doesn't mean they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So our whole goal with this, guys, as you're listening and watching, is like, don't compare yourself to somebody that you really don't know, like what their ethics are, what their morals are, if the following is really a legit following, are they really the type of person to look up to? And you have to really put your like blocker vision on social media, because you can find yourself really going down this rabbit hole of negativity, comparing, and even for your ideal client, Andie, in the intuitive eating space, they're following all these pages of like the Kardashians and all these fake representations of what women should look like. And we get into this comparison trap. Girl, I could talk about this all day.
I know, me too, me too. I know that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I actually like part of my program that I have built in. Like one of the things we talk about is let's do a social media cleanse, like
Yeah.
not a juice cleanse because we don't believe in those, but a social media cleanse. And like, let's just clean out all the things that are making you feel like you need to go on a diet, feel like you should change your body, feel like you need to look different or be different, because it is like social media, it's just a big part of our world today. And obviously, you want to limit that somewhat, like whatever works best for you, but because it is such a big part of our world, we need to make sure it's positive, and we need to make sure when we're on it it's not a negative experience, and a lot of that has to do with cleaning it up and making sure that you're following the right people and engaging with the right people.
Yeah. And I think that can go for any type of person. That could go for a
Mhm.
mom following all these dolled up mom bloggers,
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry, my average day I'm gonna have sweats and my hair in a bun, but it doesn't make me any
mhm.
less of a mother.
Exactly.
Or these women that are looking to learn intuitive eating, but they're still following all the influencers and dieting pages, or you guys in business that are following 50,000 different business pages and comparing
Mhm.
yourself to like what someone else is doing. Like, I think we all probably need to plan that as a goal for 2023,
Yeah.
is to take, a social media cleanse and get some of those pages that are leading us down a rabbit hole off of our social media. So I love that
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is really just start to, like you said, kind of put those blinders on and just focus on your goals and what you're doing and
Yeah.
not get so caught up in what everyone else is doing. Like one of the best things I've done is try to focus more, and I'm not always great at this, but try to focus more on creating rather than consuming, because it does. You start to be like, oh, well, I should make that real. I should do this. And there are good ideas out there, but it can get really overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. I've never heard you say that, creating versus consuming, because I say this all the time. Like, I don't follow other quote competitors in my space. I just follow friends that I have that maybe do something similar to me. But if someone's supposedly like a competitor, I don't really see competition, because like you said, like, everybody is going to appeal to somebody and there's plenty of babies born every day. But like,
Mhm.
I don't consume any other, like, for example, business coaches content. I don't
Mhm.
care to consume their content, and they're on my stories every day watching mine, and I'm like, you are doing so much probably comparison and
Mhm.
copying of me, but like, go get in your own lane and be unique, right? And that's a
Yeah.
huge thing about you, is you stay in your lane, you create content that impacts your ideal client, and that's why your business has continued to grow, but also your following has grown with the right people,
Mhm.
is because you are setting a trend in for your own space and for your own self that is like your difference maker.
Yeah, and I have seen, a decent amount of growth just over this past year with my Instagram, even though that wasn't my goal. And I think part of that, and part of not having that as my main goal actually helped because I wasn't so focused on needing more followers, but really creating good content and creating things that resonated with people. And so that naturally brought more followers and more people to my page.
Yeah, so I think we inadvertently kind of gave it. I was going to ask next, like, about, hey, what would be the biggest thing you would tell, someone that's looking to start a business, or, maybe we can even give a tip on someone that's looking to start their intuitive eating journey. But I feel like we kind of reviewed, like, if you are a business owner, like, stay in your lane, stop the comparison, create content for your ideal client. Don't be scrolling and consuming so much content. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I think, too, just going back to what we talked about before, but just being confident, because I think that can really make people not pursue their goals, whether it is with intuitive eating or having a business. You think I can't do it. And so you just don't try. But I always tell people, would you rather not try and stay stuck, or would you rather try and be like, I might fail, but what if you don't? What if you succeed? And so, just having that confidence to get out there and at least try in whatever your goal is.
Yeah. So last thing, girl, what do you want to celebrate as we're moving into 2023 and starting 2023? What is something in life or business that you want to celebrate as we wrap up the podcast?
Yeah, well, I don't want it to be like money focused, but I do think this kind of shows mindset wise. So I went into 2022 and I told my husband, like, I have a goal to make 70K with my business this year. I was brand new. I started my business last October, like just over a year ago, October of 2021. And he was like, you can do better than that. And I was like, no, no, like that's being really aggressive. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to make that goal. And I just more than doubled that this year. I made over 140, which again, like, not so much about the money, but just the fact that I didn't believe in myself and I could do way more than I thought. And so for me, that's just been really cool to be like, wow, I need to have a lot more confidence in myself because I can do things that I think are impossible.
I love it that your husband said that you could beat it and you did
Yeah.
beat it. And so I think
Yeah.
this is one place where it's okay that he says, I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with it.
I love that. And I'm just so grateful for our friendship, and us working
Mhm.
together, because I just have grown to love you. And
Yeah.
you're just making such an impact in the intuitive eating space and the business world. And I'm just so proud of you, girl. And I really appreciate you being on today's podcast and episode.
Yeah, it's been so fun to work with you. I've been so inspired by you, and I'm really glad we got the chance to just sit and chat today a little bit more about all the progress we've made together.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on, girl.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Jared, I'm going to do the intro real quick. Welcome back to the Sarah Hall Show. I'm so excited to have Andie Grange on today. Andie is an RD and an intuitive eating counselor, and she has built a six-figure business in 1 year. And I think you're going to be really inspired by the lessons she teaches you in today's episode, all about confidence and making money online and not getting into the comparison trap. So let's get into today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. I know you enjoyed Andie's episode. She is amazing. I love how she shared openly about her confidence struggles, her struggles with body image and disordered eating, but also the fact that she blew her revenue goal out of the water. And you can freaking do that too. So thank you so much for being here. Please tag me at the Sarah D Hall over on Instagram. Leave us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening or watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.